that people sent me. And somebody sent me a story about Kevin Samuels and the fact that he died from hypertension, aka high blood pressure. And I thought I would kind of address some of that because I think that that's a serious issue. And a lot of people had speculation on how Kevin Samuels died. And the speculation has been ended. They basically revealed what the cause was. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. So when I read about Kevin Samuels dying of high blood pressure, one of the things that was interesting to me, it really affected me for a few reasons. One, he was 57. I'm 51. Two, he died in Atlanta of high blood pressure. I was actually in Atlanta when I found out that I had high blood pressure in about, I think, 2014. So I was in Atlanta, and this is a story I'm sharing just for any brothers out here, that when we start thinking we're invincible and we can't never die. Here's the deal. 55%, more than half of all black people have high blood pressure. And it sucks. And it doesn't, you don't feel it, but it could kill you like at any second, like stroke, heart attack, all that stuff. And so I remember I was in Atlanta and I wanted to get a life insurance policy, and it was a big one. So they needed to take my blood and take my blood pressure. And so the nurse takes my blood pressure and she looks at the reading and she stops and she says, "Let me take that again." And she takes my blood pressure again. And she basically tells me, "Your blood pressure is extremely, extremely high." And truth be told, blood pressure is just one of those things you don't even think about. You don't, because you don't feel it. It doesn't hurt, and as a man, you feel like you can just do anything. You feel invincible. And so when Kevin died from hypertension, aka high blood pressure, I really thought that it would be worth talking about to just remind everybody, especially black men, you have to go to the damn doctor. Men, there's something about being a man where you just feel like you can't never die, and it's mind over matter and everything else. And the truth is that at the end of the day, you don't want these things to catch up with you. And I saw that nurse, that video that I put up with the nurse who talked about all the black men in their 40s and 50s, that handsome men with good jobs who are sitting in the stroke ward and, can't move half their body and nobody's there to take care of them. And I really just kind of think that that's like a lesson, like kind of something we got to like think about, because sometimes people will be lying to you. Sometimes people will make you think that you can live your best life forever, and the thing was, I had a mixed relationship when it came to my feelings about Kevin Samuels. I had mixed feelings. On one hand, Kevin, he did a whole video about me like a year before he really blew up, and I didn't even know it. And I went back and I don't watch YouTube videos that often, to be honest with you, but I watched about 3 minutes of it, and he was saying things that made sense. They were very logical. And I said, this guy seems pretty smart. And I watched some of his older videos. Very smart, very logical. He blew up when he told that black lady she was going to die alone. I thought that was just really a fucked up thing to say. I don't think you have to tell people they're going to die alone. Let them die alone. Like, you don't have to say that. You're not helping them. You're making them depressed. You're being mean. You're being an ass. Like, don't do, like, and I think that people enjoyed the train wreck of blaming black women for all your problems and all this other stuff. And I just thought that was kind of unfortunate, because I think he was such a smart guy that if he had a little more moderation and balance, people could have really appreciated his intellect, instead of him cutting people off, instead of people just not even hearing him because you have no business telling somebody she's going to die alone just because she won't lose weight or because she don't agree with you or whatever, and then also I think when he said women over 35 are leftovers, they're not leftovers. They're human beings. And to say that black women over 35 are leftovers and nobody wants you, that's like saying black men who go to prison are worthless, or black men who don't have money are worthless. Seriously, if somebody says you really are envious of Kevin, no, maybe you're envious of me, because if you agree with that bullshit, then we can't be friends. You're stupid, in my opinion, if you even think that that's appropriate behavior toward the black woman. Like, you don't have to be an asshole to be a man. Like, so I'm not talking about Kevin or in terms of what he was. You have to be careful about talking about the dead, so I'm not here to, say anything negative about him. It's really more so about that idea of all you men that really think it's okay to go and tell women, beautiful women, 35, 40, 45, 50 years old, like, you're worthless. Nobody wants you. And the thing is, like, I know he said other things. I know he had other videos and other content and all that. He did. Yeah, he did he had a lot of ideas that he shared. But shit, man, that's what you are becoming famous for? And so it's messed up also because I've seen the dating market, right? Like, when I was in my 40s, I was single and I was dating. And to be honest with you, it was too easy for me. There were too many women available for me. Like, it was just like, you could be a kid in a candy store. I just didn't get involved in all that because I'm not trying to get caught up in situations and stuff. I was looking for a good woman, but I wasn't looking to be with every woman. But if I wanted to be that kind of person, it would have been very easy because there is a shortage in this country of marriage eligible, educated black men who are, economically capable. It's just the truth. There's a shortage. And, and so, a lot of women, they think it's their fault. They're told that it's because you won't do this and you won't do that. And sometimes it is. Some of that's true. I mean, don't get me wrong. I personally think that if you want to get better at dating and want to get along better with other human beings, you can't be a selfish asshole. And I think sometimes feminism teaches women to be very selfish. And I do feel that way, to be honest with you. However, what y'all don't understand, what a lot of people don't understand, is that when Joe Biden sent all those black men to prison, he was sending away a lot of your husbands. He was sending away a lot of the men that would have been marriage eligible. He sent away a lot of the men that would have been millionaires and professors and lawyers and doctors and CEOs, because he didn't give black men that same opportunity that he is giving men like his son Hunter. His son Hunter is smoking up all the crack, and he would never give his son Hunter the same punishment that he would give a black man. So a lot of these men that would have been your husbands went to prison, and their sons were raised without a father. So their sons are dating your daughters who are in their 20s, and they don't know what the hell to do. They don't know how to be a man. They are lost. They don't even value family. They don't value relationships. Think about this. You grew up, you never saw it. Why would you even think that was something that you want to aspire to? Like, if you grow up watching Pimps and Hustlers, you become a pimp and a hustler. That becomes your goal because that's what you see. Like, okay, I saw the pimp. He had the nicest car, the fur coats and all the women. So my goal is to become like the pimp. Well, I didn't grow up seeing the pimp and wanting to become like the pimp. I grew up seeing my father and saying, I want to be like my father. I want to have a solid woman next to me. I want to be respected. I want to be a guy that follows through. I want to be brave. I want to be, all these things, and so what you see affects how you think. So long story short, I think that as men, I think that we can be whoever we want to be, do whatever we want to do. But I really think that there should be some sort of code of conduct in terms of what it means to be a decent human being. That's it. Now somebody says, trim your nose hair, nigga. Well, first of all, I'm not a nigga. You say it again, you're going to get blocked out of here. Number two, I'll trim my nose hair whenever I feel like it. So how about you trim your words or trim your, or how about you go gain some intellect so you can actually say something that makes sense. But my point here is to say that, when you talk about Kevin, I saw a lot of this coming. I didn't see his death coming. I didn't see that part. But it didn't surprise me. Like, the very thing I had been trying to say to guys who were getting caught up in this whole, like, these women won't do this and these women, their standards are too high and this is what's wrong with black women. I was just kind of like, you're going kind of down a road of, like, zero accountability. So you're really behaving just like the women that you're complaining about. They don't take accountability and you're not taking accountability. And then also, I was sitting here and I was kind of thinking about Kevin. I was like, you're in your 50s and you're still making men think that because you have options that you should never, ever commit to anything. You should never invest in people, never invest in relationships unless they meet certain standards, of course, or these really weird, elusive standards. And he never invested, in a relationship. I know he was married twice and got divorced twice, but then, the lady he died with was a lady he did not know. And so to me, I just thought it was incredibly ironic that you spent your career telling black women they're going to die alone because they don't listen to you, and you died alone. Like, you literally died in the arms of a lady. For all I know, she could have been a hooker. She might as well have been, because you didn't know her. You met her yesterday. It's like you met her like you didn't know her at 2:00 yesterday afternoon, and you're dying in her arms. That's literally like dying alone. And somebody says a man with options doesn't have to settle. Well, you don't have to do nothing. I mean, I didn't have to settle. I had options and all that. I had plenty of options, probably more options than, like, I don't listen to the guys that talk shit because, I have more options than you because I've made $20 million and I'm famous. So when you are in that category, the options are everywhere. So I had all the options, but the thing about it is, like, if you look at Ice Cube's a guy you've seen on my platform before. Ice Cube had options, but look at Ice Cube's life. Who's been next to Ice Cube for the last 25, 30 years? Kim, his wife Kim. Well, you'd be like, well, man, you got all them options, dog. You Ice Cube, dog. You supposed to be out here being a player, dog. No, because Ice Cube is smart. He's strategic. If you go listen, if you pay really close attention, Ice Cube had a song called Ass Over Cash that he wrote in his 20s. And basically he said these dudes are stupid. They end up losing everything because they always put the ass over the cash. They put you put chasing ass over chasing your goals. So you chasing women because you chasing your addiction to the next orgasm, your addiction to the next big booty, or you getting lured in with a big butt and a smile because you can't think strategic. You can't think on a higher level. You like a goddamn dog. And dogs run around sticking their dick in everything. And next thing you know, dogs end up in dumb situations. They end up dead. They end up getting poisoned, getting killed. So ultimately, you're not strategic. If you are a man who gets distracted by shiny objects, you will be a loser for your whole entire life. You will never, ever succeed. You will never be able to win. And even when you think you're winning, it's going to be a false victory because eventually you're going to run into that poisonous piece of ass that's going to cost you everything. You're going to end up like these dumb fucking rappers who end up getting divorced and end up broke. The rapper Exhibit, I got all the bitches, I got all the women. Yeah, well, now Exhibit's in divorce court telling the judge that he ain't got no money to pay his ex-wife. You'll be like that football player, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson just signed the largest contract in NFL history, from what I understand, or one of the largest. Well, Deshaun Watson's going to pay $100 million for all them hoes that he was chasing. Deshaun Watson, I'm sitting here like, how you got 30 women accusing you? Ain't no 30 women that can accuse me of nothing involving no sex. There's not 30 women alive that could have a story about me that would make me look like Deshaun Watson's look. I'm like, I don't even have one or two of those stories. You got 30? Dude, you're going to lose everything because you have no discipline. A man with no discipline will be disciplined by the world. You will either be disciplined by the criminal justice system, or you will be disciplined by the predators that exist to take advantage of your dumb raggedy ass. So keep on going out here and laying down with any cute little girl with a big booty and see how quickly you end up in a very bad situation. I've seen guys cry because they can't afford their child support. And I'm just like, why are you crying? You wasn't crying when you was getting the pussy. like, what are you crying about? Like, you did this. She didn't. They didn't. These women, these hoes, these women, they do that. Yeah, well, you don't have any discipline, dude. You don't understand. Sometimes you got to not take the free sample from the dope man unless you want to get hooked on the drug. So sometimes you have women that will offer you a free sample, like, oh, come here, I'll treat you nice and you can have whatever you want. And you really think that because you're the man that you really got it made, but really you're being lured into a trap, and some of these women will trap you. So I personally think that there should be more conversations about that. I believe that any man that wants to be successful must be very strategic, especially when you're a black man, because the white man wants to take you down. He wants you in prison. They really wanted your mother to abort you because they don't even want to deal with your black ass. But then they definitely want you locked up. If they don't have you locked up, they want you to be ignorant and uneducated. That's why they distract you with hip hop and trap music and all that, so you'll stay in the trap mentally. So you'll go out here and do something that's going to either get you locked up or keep you so high on drugs that you don't even know what's going on. You can't compete. You can't compete if you're a drug addict. You can't. Drug addicts can't compete with hardworking, focused, talented people. They can't. You know, I laugh. If you put an alcoholic or a drug addict in front of me and that's my competition, I just kind of laugh because you're not focused at all, because you're a slave. You're a slave to the drugs. You're a slave to the vagina. You're a slave to, sometimes people are slaves to the money too. You can even be a slave to the money. So for a man to be successful, you must be strategic. And I really wish there was more conversations about strategy. And so with Kevin and his whole message and the message guys were getting from him, I understand part of it in the sense that I think black men are not heard. I think that there needs to be more effort to hear how men feel. I think that there are women that do hurt men and nobody hears that. I think that we live in a society where every time a man is accused of anything, everybody believes the woman over the man. I do agree with that. And I think Kevin was able to tap into that frustration. But the problem is sometimes you can go overboard. So if you look at, I want you to go do this. Go look at Kevin's YouTube channel. And I want you to look at the last 8 videos that he did. I want you to look at the thumbnail and the title. Kevin was very smart in that regard. He knew what thumbnail that was going to trigger you. He knew what title to use to get you to watch the video. Every single video that I saw, the last 8 videos before he died, were all images of a black woman. It wasn't like the thumbnail was blaming men. It was an image of a black woman, and it was some complaint about the woman in the title. It would be like, you know, single mom thinks she's the prize. So there's like a scorn or a contempt towards single moms, or educated black woman thinks she can compete for a man, or modern women just don't get it. So there's like kind of a contempt toward women that would be considered educated, modern, or single mothers, things like that. And I think that the messages could have been shared without creating the environment of contempt. And then you get to those crazy sound bites of, you know, you're going to die alone. Well, that puts you in a risky position, because then when you die alone, everybody's going to remember what you said. They're going to say, wait a minute, you told everybody else they were going to die alone, but you actually died with a lady you don't even know. And so I personally think that balance is really critical. And I also think that the real test of your manhood, in my opinion, is just like love. It's just like showing, it's like I can love black people without hating white people. I have a lot of white people who think that I don't like them because I'm so pro-black. And I just tell them, I'm like, I don't have to hate you to love myself. I ain't got to be anti-white to be pro-black. In fact, if I feel that being pro-black means I have to be anti-white, that means I haven't reached my highest level spiritually and intellectually. Because somehow I see you as the barrier for me to be able to love myself. Somehow I feel that I have to either please you or compete against you or overcome some shackles you put on me in order for me to be free to truly love myself. So before I can really learn to be pro-black, I got to be anti-white. I got to fight the white man, because the white man is the one holding me back. But if I really am a liberated black man, then I can love the hell out of being black and not give a shit what white people are doing at all. You know, so when white people are constantly in your consciousness, that is actually them wielding a type of power over your existence. It's just like when you break up with somebody. If all you're doing is trying to prove your ex-boyfriend wrong and finding out if he's happy or unhappy and talking about him all the time, what you're really actually telling me is that you really love him. You just hate the fact that you love him so much. The day I know when you're really over him is when I say, well, you know, Tyrone got married, and you're like, wow, good for him. That's great. I'm glad to hear he's doing well. And then you don't even care enough to really to barely say that, because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. So I'm indifferent to what white people are doing. So the same thing is true, I think, with manhood. I think that being a man does not require you to be anti-woman. Being a man does not require you to sit around and complain all day about what women are doing to you. Women are going to be women. Women ain't going to change that much. If a woman is acting stupid, you walk away from her and you find a woman who's not acting stupid. If all the women around you are stupid, then that means you're choosing stupid women. At the end of the day, it comes back to me. What type of woman am I spending time with? And also, does me being a man and me being firm in who I am and loving myself and doing what's best for me, does that mean I have to be mad at women at the same time? Because I think that me sitting around arguing and barking and bitching all day about women and what women do and how women hurt me and how women do you wrong and how women do this and that, that almost makes you the bigger bitch. All that does, that just makes you the bigger bitch. That makes you very bitchy, very whiny. And the thing is, here's the thing. I understand though, because love is a powerful process. So when you fall in love with a woman, and this is where the power of womanhood comes into play. This is why I wish more women understood this too, is women are very powerful. If you let a woman into your soul, she does have a type of power that pussy can't buy that power. A big booty can't get that power. You know, when a woman really enters your soul, it really is like like catching an emotional version of the coronavirus. Like she's in there. So she can just get in there and cut up your internal organs and all this stuff and do it without even touching you. She can do it with her words because you love her that much. That's why it's very important to be strategic about what types of women you even allow to have that power and knowing when to create appropriate boundaries. So I just think that I think that men have to learn strategy, and I think that strategy has to go a lot farther than the simple stuff, like how do you get more ass, or this is how you're supposed to dress if you want a woman to like you. All those things are nice, but that's like level 1 type stuff. But it's like, how do you find happiness in this world? How do you find peace? How do you succeed at the highest levels? Like if you're talking about trying to do something amazing and extraordinary, what type of work ethic do you have? What do your values have to be? I don't think that there's a lot of conversation about that. I think these superficial conversations, or where women are like trying to find a man that makes a certain amount of money and that's it. It's like, really, that's it? That's it? Like, that's crazy to me, because I know a lot of millionaires who will ruin your life. Like, that's really it. So really, if a man makes a lot of money, that makes him a good man. Are you serious right now? So long story short, I was just thinking about this. This was all on my mind. And I saw the thing about how Kevin died. And I think that the thing that sparked my original conversation was just the warning about blood pressure. Get your blood pressure checked on a regular basis. I have to do, so I don't do everything I'm supposed to do all the time with my blood pressure, but I do take medicine for it. And, and I do monitor it, because that's the one thing that can just kill you out of the blue. And I'm a guy that stays under a lot of stress because I work really hard. So, when I saw how Kevin went out, it was like, whoo, okay, got to be careful, but at the same time, I can also say that, at some point, we all die, and I'm happy with my life. Like I feel like I've achieved literally every goal I had when I was 20. I accomplished every single one of those goals. I achieved literally every one of them. I married the woman I wanted to marry. I made the money I wanted to make. I got the education I wanted to get, the success I wanted to have. So if I died tomorrow, I wouldn't have a lot of regrets, but I don't want to die too soon. And so I think that just for black men, especially when you hit 40, you have to acknowledge your health. And I would encourage you, maybe just, make sure you get that checkup, take your vitamins, exercise. I think that when you get past a certain age, you have to exercise. I think that's really important. If you're not exercising, just do baby steps. That's what I did. I just did little baby steps, and that made a difference for me. So anyway, if what I said about Kevin hurt your feelings or made you sad, I totally understand. I know a lot of guys, respect him, looked up to him, and I don't mean to be to sound harsh or anything like that. But I would encourage you too, if you look at any man or any woman in that way, where you feel like they're beyond reproach, be careful about that too. That's a very dangerous place to be, because when you get into the point where you get to hero worship, you can end up being vulnerable to very bad ideas. Like I look up to a lot of people. I look up to, my favorite male heroes are Louis Farrakhan, Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. George Fraser, Kenny Gamble. I really also admire Herb Strather and Gary Shelton out of Detroit, and a few other black men that have just done amazing things. But every time I talk to them, I always make sure that I have my own ideas, and I don't just embrace whatever they tell me. Like, I don't look at what they say as the gospel. I will take the pieces that work for me And then there's some pieces where I say, that's not my style, or I don't want to go that route that you went, right? So I really think that any guy who feels like you're trying to figure it all out, yeah, get advice. Find the OGs and the older men that you can listen to, and older women as well. But form your own opinion. Like, what is your opinion? And if you can't critique your heroes, then that means you're not really thinking hard enough. Every single person you admire, you should be able to look at their life and point to mistakes that they make. Like, the two greatest black men in history to me were Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. I could lay out enough critiques. I could lay out enough critiques of either one of those guys that you would really think that I didn't like either one of them. Like, I could talk about Malcolm and say, I think the way he handled his parting from the Nation of Islam was wrong. I think he was asking for trouble, honestly. I think that there were a few other things he did that I didn't like. Also, even getting married and not having something prepared for your family in case something happened to you, I thought that was a huge mistake. Ali, his mistake was he was chasing too much ass. So all those women ended up taking all his money. Guys I knew that knew Ali said that because he was so handsome and he was a world champ and he had all his money, he never ran out of women. He would have a new woman every day. And that seems fun. But unfortunately, that can cause you a lot of problems. If you look at Ali's life, that dude, he would have died broke. The only reason Ali did not die broke was because his last wife, Lonnie, was the one who scooped his ass up when didn't no women want him no more because his speech was slurred and he wasn't fighting no more. She scooped him up and saw that he still had a brand. And because she had an MBA from UCLA, she rewired that brand to allow him to make money after he was disabled. And so in that's an example of where a good quality woman really took his stuff from the ashes. Before that, he was messing with fast women and these boxing promoters. Don King took a bunch of his money. The women, when they divorced him, they would take everything. So he was like, that's why he had to fight. That's why he had himself beaten to the point where he had brain damage, because he didn't realize something that I think a lot of black men have to understand, is that you ain't going to be young forever. You're not. You're going to get old, man. And Ali thought, well, I'm 40 years old. I'm still Ali, mind over matter. I can still go out and do this. No, man, you're getting beaten to a pulp by Larry Holmes to the point where you can't even pronounce your words anymore. And his hands shaking and all this other stuff. And to me, that's sad. It's an example of where you had a great hero that was broken down to a really shameful, sad position where you felt sorry for him. And I think that for men, if you want to come in the game strong, if you are strong, not every man cares about being strong. Not every man is strong. I don't know. But if you are strong and you want to stay strong, you got to be strategic. You got to know how to adjust. You have to make a plan for the next stage of your life. So you got to understand that when you're in your 40s, you don't live your 40s the way you live your 30s. You don't live your 50s the way you lived your 40s. You always have to say, okay, what plan is going to work best for this stage of my life? It's just like investing. If I sat here and talked to you about stocks and bonds and all that, I would say, well, the way you invest when you're 25 is different from how you invest when you're 40, which is different from how you invest when you're getting closer to retirement. Well, when you're talking about the really important investments you make in life are not going to be financial. The important investments you make in life are going to be the things that have nothing to do with money. It's going to be your investments in people. My parents, my mother, invested in me and my sister and my brother. I mean, in a real crazy way. My father did too. We ended up doing better than a lot of our friends. None of our friends, became successful the way me and my sister and my brother did, because we had different values in our house. We were big on personal responsibility, very big on hard work, very big on education, very big on no excuses. That made us different from, honestly, a lot of black people. Unfortunately, a lot of families, they just give excuses to their kids from the time they're little, so that's why they never accomplish anything. And so years later, if my mother wants something, she doesn't need a retirement plan. She doesn't need retirement income. I make thousands of dollars a month for my mother. I invest for her. I send her whatever she wants. If she wants to go on a vacation somewhere, we pay for it. When my father wanted a new van, I just bought it. And so that is a scenario where he got a return on his investment in retirement, because back 20, 30, 40 years ago, he was investing in us, right? So what I really think happens sometimes to men is that because we can't, again, a strategic man can see time. He can see the passage of time. He can see the past, present, and the future and connect them all. An unstrategic, unintelligent, undisciplined man only sees the moment. He only sees now. So, you put, a bottle of liquor in front of him, he'll drink it up. Put some drugs in front of him, he'll sniff it up. Put a woman in front of him, he'll fuck it up. And he's not thinking about the long-term consequences. Well, and that's because of society. Society encourages that. Also, in fact, they say that watching lots of TV reduces your ability to engage in critical thinking. It literally disrupts the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is actually the only part of your brain that separates you from an animal. So some of our people, when we're not being trained to think strategically, you see them, unfortunately, living like animals do. Like, I'm living for the moment. I'm not making a plan for next week. If you give a dog, you go give a dog like 2 weeks worth of food, he's not going to ration that food out. He's not going to say, okay, I'm going to eat a little bit today so I can have more later and blah, blah. He's not going to do that. He's going to eat 2 weeks worth of food in one day, get real fat, and then starve for the next 2 weeks. That's what a dog does. And if you look around at the way some of us train our children to live, and I'm not saying that these people are dogs. I'm not trying to be mean or dehumanize anybody. But if you look around, tell me if you know what I'm talking about. Some people live in a way where you're like, how are you going to survive like that? Like, wait, so, okay, I get it. Okay, you're paycheck to paycheck, and you swear it's the white man's fault, and it's nobody's fault. It's not your fault. It's everybody else's fault. You laying down with raggedy ass men that would be terrible fathers, but you like them because they got big penises or the sex is good. Okay, I get that. Your trauma is causing you to seek out pleasure as a way to numb the pain that you're feeling internally because you haven't, been told about things like therapy and stuff like that. So your therapy is that toxic man's dick. Like, that's the thing that makes you feel better. So that's your crack pipe. Okay. And you got all these girls pregnant. You get free time. You're wasting the free time because you watch Netflix all day, or even your health. You don't want to work out because running is hard. Exercise is not fun. So as a result, your life becomes a reflection of a lot of short-term choices that feel good, right? You're overweight. No disrespect if you are overweight. I'm not making fun of you, but I'm just saying this is what can happen to us, right? We could get overweight because we're not thinking long-term about health. We can have a lot of situations, a lot of bad situations, because we're sleeping with anything that looks good. We're not thinking about how this fits into our long-term plan. We are broke because when somebody charges $80 or $200 or whatever for a financial class, we think that that's too much money to spend, right? So we don't have a plan. We don't know anything about money, but somehow we think we're going to have money, but we've never taken the time to actually plan to have money. We want to have money, but we've never taken the time to even understand where money's at and how to get it. That doesn't make any sense. I can't imagine me thinking that I could go survive in the Amazon and I haven't spent like 10 minutes even studying how to survive in the woods. Like, I don't even know how to chop wood. I don't know how to shoot a gun. I don't know how to do nothing, but yet I'm thinking you can drop me in the Amazon and I'm going to survive, but I've had no training. That's how people look to me when they want to have money and they love money and they say, I'm out to get money over everything, but they know nothing about how to obtain it. That's illogical. That makes no sense. So what I would say to you, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to be done. When you're talking about life, and we started talking about the Kevin Samuels thing, and I'm not in any way dissing Kevin or whatever. I would encourage you to supplement whatever you've learned with understanding life strategy, life management. When people say Planned Parenthood to me means planning who in the hell I'm even going to sleep with so that I don't curse my children with a terrible parent. But that also requires me to be willing to do the work, perhaps through a therapist, to learn why is it that I tend to make choices that are not beneficial to me. When you're talking about health, well, strategically, that means exercising is not fun. I hate running. It is not fun. It hurts all my joints. But I do it because I know that if I do a little bit of running, I'm not going to get fat. So that's the trade-off, okay? I deal with the discomfort of running. If I do it so I don't get fat, and I'm getting older, and I want to make sure that when I get older, I'm not a person that's in a fucking wheelchair because I didn't want to get up and do a few jumping jacks and run around the block a couple of times. When you're talking about economics, okay, strategy means that when I get my money, I'm going to save some of that and I'm going to invest some of that. I'm not going to spend it all, because if I want to have money, I've got to invest some of that money. I've got to save money. If I want a harvest, I must plant a seed. A lot of people plant 0 seeds and then wonder why they have no harvest. Well, you have no harvest because you don't get a goddamn harvest if you did not plant any fucking seeds. How simple is that shit? Like, God made it real simple for you. He made the rules are simple. If you give nothing, you will get nothing. If you do not sacrifice, then you will have nothing. Where did you think that the benefits were going to come if you did nothing to earn any of those benefits? It makes no sense to me. So I just think that at the end of the day, if you want to ask me who's going to be the most successful long term, I would probably ask you to look around your life and say, what are the areas in my life where I'm making a sacrifice on a week-to-week basis? So if you are making sacrifices by being a great parent, spending time with your children, then you're going to get benefits. Your children are going to love you and they're going to be successful because of that. If you are a person that's getting up and, as heavy, as fat as some of us can get, and you getting up and you doing your little jumping jacks and your little run around the block, you're going to get benefits. Your body's going to reflect that. If you're a person who's taking the time to learn economic intelligence, well, then eventually your bank account will reflect that. You will have more money than somebody who didn't do that. So I would encourage you, at the end of the day, just think that through and as you make decisions. So let me see. I see a question. Let's see. Boyce learned from Kevin Samuels. Boyce is married, but had to accept something that was not ideal, however, an improvement based on his lifestyle. That is why he does not agree with Kevin Samuels. Did I learn from Kevin? I didn't really learn that much from it, what I learned. But what I did when Kevin died, I learned that my suspicions were accurate. That everything I'd said about, in your 50s, like if you run around with hoes, like you're at risk. Like that literally was something I used to think about. I used to think, like, what if, I'm 51. What if something happened? Like, what if I'm dating some 25-year-old and something happens to me that, that reflects the fact that I'm 50 something? Like, what if I have to be rushed to the hospital? I don't really want some 25-year-old that I barely know responsible for my health, because they're not going to give a shit. They're literally going to look at you and be like, this old ass man, like, I don't want to, like, you're a waste of my time, so I remember thinking, like, I kind of, and I did take issue when he said 30 women over 35 are leftovers, because I remember telling my friend in my 40s, I said, I will not date a woman under 35 because I want to date a grown ass woman. I don't want to date a kid. I dated a younger woman. I dated a woman in her 20s, and I was, I wasn't in my 20s when I dated her. And it was okay for a little while, but then eventually you you feel like every day feels like Saturday morning cartoons. Like, it just feels weird. Like, there's certain areas you just can't even relate. So maybe for stupid men or men who don't think, you're only thinking about the sex part or something, or you have no deep thoughts that you want to share with another person, maybe that can work. Maybe the relationship is just simple and superficial. It's all about how somebody looks. I get that because I'm a professor, right? So I think a lot, right? So to me, connecting with a woman means I'm connecting with you intellectually, and I go pretty deep. So if you can't go there with me, then I'm going to feel disappointed, and you're going to feel like I'm a weirdo, right? You're going to be like, what is he talking about? Why does he keep talking, about this stuff, right? And so I guess it's about a matter of style. So maybe for some men, it can work. For some men, I've seen that. Like, I've seen the 55, 60-year-old doctor dating the 25-year-old. And I'm not even going to say that it's terrible all the time. I just think that it's important to know the difference in the balance, the give and the take, the trade-off, right? So the younger girl typically will look better in certain ways, body's a little bit tighter, stuff like that. Maybe she is a little more of a free spirit, or if you have money, it's easy to impress a young girl because like you made like $5 million, but she's impressed because you bought her like a $200 watch or something. Like, That's an easy trade-off. Um, but I think the challenge is that when you're talking about establishing yourself as a member of society, I would say on one hand, people don't respect you as much. Women certainly don't respect you. Women look at you like you're weird and creepy. Even men, mature men, might giggle about how young your wife is or your girlfriend is. Like, oh, so what's it like with that young girl? But really, to some extent, even they, I think, would question your maturity, because a lot of times when you get in the circles of like successful men, most of those men are married. Successful, mature men that are really doing well, most of them have a wife that has an age range that's like within, say, 5 to 10 years of their own age. So if you're dating like this super young lady, like I think the lady Kevin was with was 25 years younger than him, you have to be careful because it can look a little cartoonish sometimes, and it can be very awkward if you get to the deep parts of a relationship where you really truly need another human being to come through for you. Because let's just be clear, a lot of times if that young girl is there for the money, as long as you know what it is, it's okay, right? So that means if you don't have any money, she's not going to be there anymore. And if you understand that, then I think that's great. But I've seen scenarios. I think it was actually Al Sharpton who told me that story. I'm gonna tell you, I don't like Al Sharpton politically, but he is one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's a brilliant man. I would never back off of that. But I don't agree with him politically. But we would sit and talk, and I remember him telling me about women and his experience. And one of the things he was talking about was older men he knew who would date really young girls, and they would fall in love with the girl. Like, they would really think that this is their source of unconditional love. And then the girl would just eventually run off with some guy her own age, or run off because he ain't got money no more. And the guy would be all heartbroken. And he said, you didn't know what it is? Like, she ain't with you because you're young and sexy. She's with you because, maybe you're filling a void. Maybe she didn't have a daddy or whatever, so I would say that I guess it's just kind of a mixed bag. I think that where you probably would be getting it wrong, in my opinion, is if you think that one is always automatically better than the other, right? So I think that if you think that Kevin Samuels' approach of dating a girl that's 25 years younger than him is always better because she's younger and maybe more attractive, I think that's wrong. I've seen a lot of women that are a certain age that are gorgeous. I mean, women in their 40s and 50s can be really pretty. I think it's important. I think generally speaking, for anybody that gets older, the key is exercise. If you exercise, you can keep looking good forever. The people that don't look good anymore are the people who let themselves go. If you let yourself go, Mother Nature will catch up with you. When you're young, you just look good just because you're young. You get older, your metabolism drops, your body does different things. You got to take care of that. If you take care of that, then you'll be okay. If you don't take care of it, then yeah, you're going to start looking old. And so, black women are amazing. I mean, black really doesn't crack. So black women can look really good at a lot of different ages. And I think it's disingenuous for us to make the presumption that when she's over 35, that there's nothing there to look at anymore, that it's all worthless. I just think that's, I picked my wife over 30-year-olds that wanted to date me because my wife was gorgeous at 45, so I would encourage you, just be thoughtful about it. Like, don't be simple-minded and just realize, for the guys, like, just, whatever you believe, whatever you want, just go for what you want, but don't feel like you got to go hurt black women's feelings in order to get it. Like, just like support them. Be masculinity is supposed to be protective. It's not supposed to be abusive, verbally or otherwise. So if I'm abusing you because you don't agree with me, or because I think these women, their standards are too high, or these women are too unrealistic or whatever, so what? Let them be unrealistic. If they want to learn the shortcomings of being unrealistic, then let them be unrealistic. Pick a woman who isn't unrealistic, And then also the other funny thing to me, also, this is another little thing I would throw out there, is I would suspect that a lot of the men who were really frustrated women and felt like their standards were too high, some of these men were just men who didn't know how to meet a standard. Like, that's something that wasn't really discussed, is that, you think women's standards are too high or whatever, but, in some cases, it's like, maybe she didn't like you because you couldn't meet the standard, and you're just mad about that. And what I find when you talk about like relationship type stuff is that it's easy. If you ever want to build a big YouTube channel, you do one of two things: either create a channel for women where you can sit around and blame men for all your problems and do like Derek Jackson did this. Derek Jackson's formula was to tell women that you're always beautiful, you're always a queen, even if you're not a queen. Right? The queen status doesn't need to be earned because everybody gets to be a queen. And also, the reason that he left you is because he wasn't mature and he couldn't, he was intimidated by you because of your master's degree, and he didn't want to be with you because you held him accountable. Like, that's what Derek Jackson tells you. So very rarely will you see a Derek Jackson critique women and challenge women to evolve and just know the little things like how do you talk to a man? How do you respect a man? How do you treat a man? There's none of that. It's all like you're sitting there lonely with your popcorn every Friday night and your bunny slippers and your house full of cats because men are this and men are that and men are garbage. Well, that doesn't really help you. That is just a drug. He's a dope dealer, right? So the drug is sympathy. I'm going to give you sympathy. I'm going to give you reason to feel sorry for yourself so you'll feel better about your situation, because you know that the reason that you're sitting there and none of your situations are working out is because men are fucked up. That's not helping you at all. So another way to build a big YouTube channel is to go the Kevin Samuels route. This is why they became rivals. This is why people want to do a versus between those two. So the Kevin Samuels route was, these modern women are all fucked up. Their standards are just too high. How in the world can a single mom think that she deserves a good man? Or these single moms, they all became single moms because they're stupid, and you're a sucker if you go date a single mom. Who would want to date us? They made the baby by themselves. There wasn't a man who made that baby that they're taking care of. So it all comes back to like the reason that your life is messed up is because women are messed up. And women don't get it, and women don't understand how to deal with men. So to me, the lack of balance was there wasn't a lot of, shall we say, guidance or criticism on the men to kind of say, look, this is how you can still be a man without being mean or critical or nasty toward women. Most of his, again, go look at his last 8 thumbnails. All those 8 thumbnails were very toxic toward women. And also, I saw where he was talking to a woman, he got mad and he got triggered and he said, these broads, they get on my nerves. That tells me he needed therapy. That tells me he had some anger from the past that he had not dealt with, and he was taking it out on his YouTube channel on those poor women who, for whatever reason, were naive enough to come to the show to get advice, which I think was a bad idea. I don't think that was necessarily good advice, because a lot of times I think that you have men who want things from women that they haven't really earned. Like if you want her to act like a wife and do wife-like things, but you're not willing to make her a wife, well, that doesn't make any sense. Or I want you to submit to me in a certain way, but I also want you to pay half the bills. That's kind of weird too, right? So maybe it's, but here's the thing though, right? I think that there's confusion. I think that that Joe Biden, when he sent all those black men to prison, it created a lack of balance in the black family. So what you had was a lot of women that, because of the situation they were raised in, don't really even know the first thing about how to relate to a man. And the only perceptions of men they were given might have been from their mothers, who told them, keep your legs closed, don't have a boyfriend, focus on your education, these men ain't shit, right? Where they're reflecting their own trauma from the fact that they're upset that their baby daddy, walked away, or that their relationships haven't worked out. So some of these women are hard to figure out, hard to get along with. Some of them, unfortunately, because of what they've gone through, come out with very masculine tendencies, where if you are a man who does have his stuff together, you're not getting a scenario where you want to nurture the person that you're with. You need to compete with them, because everything is a competition, right? They're trying to be the head of the household in every way, and you're trying to head the household, and y'all just bumping heads. And then also the men that grow up, especially men who were raised by single mothers, many of them, if they did not have a consistent male role model that they saw every single day, who taught them the nuances of manhood, I am firmly convinced that many of these men, not all of them, but a lot of them, are confused about manhood. They really don't know what a man's supposed to do. And also, some of them were spoiled. Some of them were spoiled, by their mothers. Like, their mothers literally they raise their daughters and they spoil their sons. So I don't know where that comes from. I think it's because mothers are natural nurturers. So they'll nurture their son. So the son comes in and says, I got a bad grade on the test. The mom says, oh, it's okay. Just eat some cookies and take a nap and you'll be all right. And some of these boys get out here and they learn how to use their dicks. Like they learn how to have sex because sex feels good. And some of them are handsome, so the ladies are attracted to them, and they're accused for manhood from like media, like they're listening to rappers and stuff, and they look up to these dumbass rappers. Most of them who have fucked up lives, most of them have fucked up families. Like, why would you look up to a man like Future? There's nothing to look up to about Future other than the fact that he makes good music. That is literally the only admirable thing I have seen publicly from this man. Everything else is pretty much toxic. And so the idea that there are men that will look up to Future, but call Russell Wilson a simp, that is a mental illness. Like, that's really weird. Because Russell Wilson, he's not a wimp. Like, he could whoop Future's ass. He's a football player. He could, he makes more money than Future, so he's got more money. He's got more strength. He's certainly got more discipline. His children are going to love him. The Future's children are going to hate his guts because he threatens to kill their mothers in front of them. So the thing is, somebody said Future's got swag. That's not swag. That's not swag. Unless swag, that's not swag. You might call it fag, but that ain't swag. I'm sorry, that's not swag. That's fag. If you ask me, that behavior is some shit they created in hip hop culture. And they drop it on the black man, and you imitate that because it actually started in the 1970s when they started making all those pimp movies, and all the black men wanted to be pimps. They all started to imitate the behavior of pimps because Hollywood was glorifying pimp behavior. So black men were like, oh, I want to be a pimp. I want to pimp these hoes. And there's no other culture where that behavior is seen as admirable. It doesn't mean that you don't have men that love sex and love women, and some men get around and promiscuous, do whatever people do, right? But there's something about it that's very immature, very toxic. It's also a stunted growth, like stunted mental growth, where they behave like children even when they're 45 and 50 years old. They don't understand that, okay, maybe some things I did when I was 24 I'm not supposed to do when I'm 44. But you got some 44, 54-year-old men still running around here like kids. And I just think that, so I think that broken family plays a big part in this, because I think that men who are not consistently disciplined by a strong man in their life, they tend to be very weak mentally and physically. They tend to make excuses. They don't do well with any form of accountability or responsibility because they're not able to exist in a world where other people depend on them. They've never had that. The only thing they've maybe seen in some cases is they saw their strong black woman of a mother carry the world on her shoulders. So they know how to depend on a woman. So that's where you get the hobosexual. The hobosexual are those men that look for a strong black woman to not be a wife, because making them a wife is too much pressure. So you make them a baby's mama, and then you do some sort of ridiculous Facebook post where you say, I just want to publicly thank my baby's mamas for holding it down while I was out here in the streets being a knucklehead. I had one experience where I mentored a kid, because the kid didn't have a father, and I was kind of like a father figure to the kid, and I eventually met the child's father, and we were cool. We talked and everything, and I remember him saying to me, "Man, I just want to say thank you for looking out for my daughter when I was out here in the streets being a knucklehead." So part of me was empathetic to what he said. I get it. We make mistakes, things happen, we live in the world. But the other part of me was very sad. I was sad because I was thinking to myself, it's not my responsibility to take care of your damn child. I know you were appreciative, and I appreciate the fact that you're appreciative, but God damn it, why the fuck weren't you there for your child? And then the other part of me was like, I could have been R. Kelly. I could have been raping your daughter this whole time, and you're not there protecting her the way you're supposed to. Who raised you? Who taught you that this is okay? Who taught you that letting go of your responsibility is all right as long as you apologize later on for the fact that you weren't there for 14 years? I was a little angry. I was angry and I held it in. I was like, okay, boys, don't be mean. Don't be judgmental. But that's how I felt. That's really how I felt. And all I just said was, I said, no problem, man. It was an honor. She's a wonderful child. But it's like, if you want to know why so many bad things happen to these kids out here, look at the background. Just ask yourself about that child. Who's protecting that child? Whose responsibility is it to protect that child? And mothers can protect, right? Mama bears are very vicious in protecting their kids, but there's a certain type of protection fathers can provide that mothers cannot. Mothers, there are things that men can do physically that women can't do. Things that men instill in children that women do not. So I just kind of think that it makes me very sad. I feel like there's a part of our community that just lost that, maybe for the next 2 or 3 generations. And men who have never seen that or never had that instilled in them, I think they maybe just see the world, they see responsibility as, well, why would I do that? Why would I take on responsibility when it's easier to not take responsibility? And I get that. That makes perfect sense if your value systems are developed in a way where you never saw the gold at the end of the rainbow. You never saw the benefits of taking the responsibility. So why would you do that? It's like if you ask me, hey, boys, why don't we go climb Mount Everest? I'm gonna be like, hell no, that's hard. It's cold. I might die, right? I see no benefit in putting out the sacrifice necessary to climb Mount Everest. But if I had been raised in a family where everybody climbed mountains, then I would say, oh my God, climbing Mount Everest is so important. I've been training my whole life for this. I can't wait. I can't wait to get to the top and see the summit. My older brother did it. My dad did it. My mom did. You know what I mean? Like it's a values, right? So if you never grew up watching your father sacrifice on behalf of a family and work with your mama to figure it out and seeing a father's protection, then it's very easy for you to think to yourself, why would I do any of that? Because it's hard. It requires money. It requires discipline. I can't do what I want. Instead, I can just go through life and just seek out pleasure whenever I want to. I can smoke my weed, drink my liquor, fuck my hoes, and do whatever. And the reason I think it's important for guys to strategically understand this for 2 reasons. One, the black community suffers because we don't have mothers and fathers working together toward the same goal. And then 2, eventually, all of that pleasure-seeking behavior does catch up with you. It always catches up with you. You think it's not, but it will. So that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts for today. I know I took this conversation all over the place, and I talked a little bit about the economic stuff, but this family stuff is actually the most important economic conversation you can ever have, because you can't build wealth without families. The black community, the part of the black community that always remains committed to broken families, is the part of the black community that will always be poor. I want you to pay attention to that. I want you to look around. Whenever you see a lot of poverty, I want you to look at the family structure and ask yourself, is there a mother and a father in the household working toward the same goal of providing for the family and taking care of the family? Or is this a family where there's lots of drama, lots of chaos, lots of trauma? Those tend to be the families that also have financial trauma. So if you want to have financial security, then you must have a family that provides emotional and physical security. Security isn't just your 401k and all that stuff. It's also literally having that big, strong man in the house that's willing to shoot somebody if he decides to break in and rape his daughter. And that's the real world that we live in. That's how you protect your girls from the R. Kellys of the world. That's how you keep your son off the street. That's how you keep your daughter off the pole. That's how you keep your son out of the unemployment line, is you have to have that security. You have to have structure. And so anyway, I mentioned to you guys the book that I'm working on. I'm almost done. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And I've been working on this book for a while. I've been thinking about it for a while, literally meditating on this. And basically what I did was I said, I want to create 10 definitive rules that a family can follow that will guarantee economic success. Because here's the thing about economics. A lot of people don't know this. Economics is very cultural. It's very cultural. It is impossible to build economics with bad families, or broken families, it is also impossible to build economics with broken culture. And so you have a broken culture. And so some of you that see this, I'm not talking to the knuckleheads. I'm not talking to people that don't get it. Unfortunately, they're victims of the broken culture. I can't, maybe they don't hear me. Maybe they think I'm uppity or something because I like went to school or whatever. I have no idea how people view me. But but for those of you that understand this,